What good is a brilliant, game-changing technical solution if literally no one else can understand it? I mean, spoiler alert, it's not worth much at all. You could engineer the most innovative system on the planet, but if you can't communicate how it works, or why it matters, or how to actually use it, well, that brilliant idea is effectively locked in a vault. The stakes in technical fields are just incredibly high, right? And the bridge between having a great idea and making a real-world impact is, quite simply, effective communication.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the foundational principles of advanced technical writing. You can think of the source material we're covering today as a sort of master builder's toolkit. We're going to explore the project and problem-based frameworks that let professionals translate incredibly complex work into documents that aren't just accurate, but genuinely impactful. If you're looking to really elevate your professional growth, this is absolutely how you do it. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with mastering clear technical communication, then look at the technical report blueprint, crafting winning technical proposals, the anatomy of academic papers, how to bridge the research gap, and finally, we'll wrap up with the final presentation project. All right, starting off with Section 1, Mastering Clear Technical Communication, Building the Foundation.
Before you write a single line of code or run a single experiment, you really need to understand that clear structure and logical flow are the absolute bedrock of any technical document. And that leads us to a massive challenge. As a technical writer, your main goal is to get better at communicating complex info concisely. But here's the catch. You have to make that information accessible to two completely different groups at the exact same time. On one hand, your technical audience wants the hard data, right? They want the methodology, the granular details. But your non-technical audience, like stakeholders, investors, or just the general public, they need the big picture, the practical applications, the why should I care. A masterfully crafted document uses relevant visual aids and a really logical structure to satisfy both of those groups.
Moving right along to Section 2, the technical report blueprint, structuring the data.
So, think of the long, formal report as your project's essential blueprint. And instead of getting bogged down in super dense academic rules, we can actually logically categorize any report based on four main pillars. First, we look at the subject matter, like what is it actually about? Then, the time interval. Is this just a quick weekly update or a massive annual summary? Next is its function. Are you informing someone, analyzing data, or making a recommendation? And finally, the physical factors. By understanding exactly how a report is classified, you immediately know how to structure your data so it perfectly meets your reader's expectations.
Once you know what kind of report you're building, you've got to assemble the parts. A long, formal report is always structured with front matter, a main body, and back matter. But the really crucial point here isn't just memorizing those parts, it's about maintaining absolute clarity and coherence across all of them. And how do you do that? By paying incredibly strict attention to the language and style of the report. The grammar, the tone, the style, and the vocabulary, they have to be consistent from the title page all the way to the very last appendix. That consistency is exactly what creates a logical flow.
Next up is Section 3, Crafting Winning Technical Proposals, Pitching the Vision.
If a report is the blueprint of what you've already done, the proposal is the pitch you need to make before you can even break ground on your project. The whole purpose of a technical proposal or synopsis is to define exactly what you intend to do. It has a few distinct elements, but the absolute secret to winning over an audience is right there in the middle, clearly defining your scope and limitations. A really great proposal doesn't just say what the project will do, it confidently states what it will not do. By defining the scope and limitations up front, you manage expectations, you show you have a realistic understanding of the problem, and you smoothly guide your reader to a solid, well-reasoned conclusion. All right, Section 4, Anatomy of Academic Papers, Constructing the Masterpiece.
Now, if a proposal is the pitch, the academic paper, which usually uses APA or IEEE formats, is the complex masterpiece of technical writing. Let's look at the front matter. First up, your title page. Next is the abstract, which is basically your high-level summary of the entire paper. Then comes the introduction, and that leads directly into the problem statement or hypothesis. This specific sequence is so vital because these elements are the setup. They clearly state the purpose of the research and lay all the groundwork for the research methods and data search, both primary and secondary, that are going to follow in the main body.
As we get into that main body, past all the quantitative and qualitative analysis and into the discussion, we hit a really critical term. Let's pause for a second to unpack this piece of technical jargon, delimitations. So, delimitations are the boundaries and specific limits set by a researcher to narrow the scope of a study.
Unlike limitations, which are often totally out of your control, delimitations are the fences you build. Setting these is absolutely essential when you're conducting analysis, because it ensures your research stays focused, relevant, and logically sound.
To wrap up the anatomy of the paper, we have the back matter: references, the appendix, and acknowledgments. Even though it just sits at the very end, the back matter acts as the structural integrity of your whole document. It proves your claims, provides the raw data for anyone who really wants to dig deeper into the appendices, and honestly, most importantly, it sets up the future scope for exactly where this research can go next.
Section 5. Bridging the Research Gap, Surveying the Land.
Okay, so how do you even know what to write about in the first place? I like to think of this process as surveying an empty plot of land before you decide to build a house on it. The logical progression goes like this. Step 1, you have to read, comprehend, and interpret previous research. That's your secondary data. Step 2, you use critical thinking to look for gaps in that research area, like where's the missing information, what hasn't been solved yet. Step 3, once you understand the need to fill that specific research gap, you create your problem statement. And finally, Step 4, you write a synopsis. This step-by-step surveying leads directly to writing a formal academic paper, again in that APA or IEEE format, that actually adds real value to the field.
And that brings us to Section 6, the final presentation project, the collaborative build. To bring all of this out of theory and into practice, it is time to collaborate. Because out in the real world, brilliant technical writing is a highly dynamic team sport. In this framework, learners form a team of 6. Together, they have to identify a technical problem of their choice, formulate solutions, prepare an academic research paper, and finally present it using information and communication technology, or ICT. Doing this requires managing group dynamics, writing with a really rational progression of ideas, and making sure the final presentation brings total clarity to everyone in the room.
The core outcomes of this entire process are just incredibly powerful. You learn time-bound teamwork. You achieve mastery of the IEEE format. You demonstrate the critical thinking required to interpret both technical and non-technical data. And you achieve absolute clarity in your presentation. I really want to emphasize this. These are not just academic hurdles you have to jump over. These are vital, real-world tools for translating complex data into actionable insights for literally any audience.
Which leaves us with this final, vital question derived straight from the learning outcomes of this material. How will you apply this technical writing toolkit for your own continuous improvement and professional growth? The structures, the logical flows, the ability to bridge gaps and present ideas clearly, these are the master keys to advancing in academia and industry alike. The toolkit is now firmly in your hands, so it's up to you to start building.